Excuses are the language of poverty, and wealth has no room for them. You can have excuses or you can have results, but you can't have both. Too many people spend their lives explaining why they can't succeed instead of figuring out how they can. And let me tell you, that kind of thinking keeps you broke. So the question is, how many barriers have you built? And are you ready to tear them down? Because until you do, wealth will remain out of reach. Every excuse you make is a chain that keeps you tied to where you are. The rich don't accept chains, they break them. You can either complain about your circumstances or change them. But you can't do both. Excuses will keep you broke. Responsibility will make you rich. That's the simple truth. But too many people don't want to hear it. They want to point the finger at the economy, their boss, their upbringing, their bad luck. But let me tell you something. The moment you start making excuses, you give up control over your own life. And if you don't control your life, someone else will. I've met people who have every reason to fail, and yet they succeed. And I've met people who have every opportunity to win, yet they find a way to lose. Why? It's not about circumstances. It's about mindset. It's about responsibility. The rich don't sit around explaining why they can't. They figure out how they can. They don't ask, why is life unfair? They ask, what can I do about it? I remember a time early in my life when I had nothing. No money, no skills, no direction. I could have made excuses. I could have said, well, I wasn't born into a rich family, or the government should help people like me. But instead, I asked myself one simple question. What do I need to change about me to live the life I want? That question changed everything. Because once I took full responsibility, I stopped waiting for things to get better and started making them better. Now let's talk about your mindset. Because your mindset is either a prison or a key to wealth. If you believe you can't succeed, you've already lost. The rich don't entertain limiting beliefs. They don't say, I'm not smart enough, or I don't have the right connections. They don't allow negative thinking to control their future. Instead, they train their mind to focus on solutions. They ask, how can I learn what I don't know? Or, who do I need to meet? If you think wealth is out of reach, you'll never stretch to grab it. If you believe success is for other people, you'll never become one of them. Your mind can either build walls or open doors. And the only person who decides that is you. I've met people who were dead broke at 30 and millionaires by 40. And I've met people who were struggling at 40 and still struggling at 60. The difference? The first group changed how they thought. The second group never did. So if you want to change your life, start by changing the way you think. Stop making excuses. Take full responsibility. And once you do, you'll realize that wealth was never outside of your reach. It was just waiting for you to reach for it. Now let's go even deeper into this. Some people spend their whole lives waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, the perfect conditions. But let me tell you, there's no such thing. If you keep waiting for life to hand you success, you'll be waiting forever. The rich don't wait. They act. They see an opportunity and take it, even if they're not fully prepared. They understand that progress is better than perfection. You have to challenge the way you think. The next time you catch yourself making an excuse, stop. Ask yourself, is this really true? Or is it just something I've been telling myself for years? Because once you challenge a limiting belief, it loses its power over you. I've seen it happen time and time again. People who thought they couldn't, suddenly could. People who thought they weren't smart enough, became experts. People who believed they weren't the type to be rich built wealth beyond their imagination. It all started with taking responsibility and shifting their mindset. Complaining never changed a situation. Complaining never built wealth. Complaining never turned a life around. But solutions do. The difference between those who struggle and those who succeed is simple. One group focuses on problems, the other focuses on solving them. I've seen it time and time again. People sit around talking about how unfair life is, how tough the economy is, how hard it is to get ahead. They spend all their energy describing the problem, but almost no energy solving it. The rich don't waste time complaining. They recognize a problem, and instead of saying, "This is terrible," they ask, "What can I do about it?" That's the shift. The moment you replace complaints with solutions, everything changes. I remember when I was young and broke. I could have complained about my situation. I could have blamed the government, the job market, my lack of education. But where would that have gotten me? Nowhere. Instead, I started asking different questions. How can I make more money? Who can I learn from? What skills do I need? See, when you ask the right questions, your mind starts looking for answers, and answers lead to action. Let me tell you something important. The market doesn't care about complaints. The economy doesn't reward whining. The world doesn't stop and fix things for you just because you're unhappy. But if you take action, if you focus on solutions, doors start opening. I met a man once who spent years complaining about his job. He hated it, but he stayed because he thought he had no other choice. One day I asked him, instead of complaining about the job you don't want, why not figure out how to create the job you do want? That question changed everything for him. He stopped focusing on what was wrong and started looking for solutions. A few years later, he was running his own business. The same man who once felt trapped had created his own freedom. See, every minute you spend complaining is a minute you could have spent solving the problem. Every ounce of energy wasted on frustration is energy that could have been used for growth. And let's talk about another thing that holds people back: their past. Because too many people think their past defines them. But let me tell you, it doesn't. Your past is a chapter, not the whole book. The person you were 5 years ago doesn't have to be the person you are today. The choices you made yesterday don't have to be the choices you make tomorrow. The rich understand this. They don't let their past failures, mistakes, or disadvantages dictate their future. They take control of their story. I've seen people come from nothing, no money, no education, no connections, and build incredible wealth. And I've seen people who had every advantage in life, yet they threw it away. What does that tell you? It tells you that your future is not determined by where you started. It's determined by the decisions you make now. I'll tell you what holds most people back. It's not their background, not their education, not their circumstances. It's beliefs. If you believe you're stuck, you'll stay stuck. If you believe you can't succeed, you won't. But the moment you believe that you have the power to change your future, you start acting differently. I know people who made terrible financial decisions when they were younger. Maybe they got into debt. Maybe they wasted years on the wrong path. And they tell themselves, it's too late for me. But let me tell you something. It's never too late. The only time it's too late is when you decide to give up. Your past doesn't have to hold you back. In fact, it can be the very thing that pushes you forward. The struggles you've been through can teach you valuable lessons. The mistakes you've made can help you make better choices. But that only happens if you stop dwelling on the past and start building the future. If there's one thing that separates the wealthy from those who struggle, it's what they choose to invest in. The poor invest in entertainment, distractions, and excuses. The rich invest in knowledge, skills, and personal growth. Because here's the truth. Your bank account is a direct reflection of what you've learned and applied over time. I've met people who tell me, I can't afford to buy books. I can't afford to take courses. I don't have time to learn. But these same people will spend hours watching television, scrolling through their phones, or spending money on things that bring no return. See, it's not that they can't afford to invest in knowledge. It's that they've convinced themselves it's not necessary. But let me tell you, knowledge is the foundation of wealth. Without the right knowledge, you won't recognize opportunities. Without the right knowledge, you won't develop the skills that create income. Without the right knowledge, you'll keep making the same financial mistakes over and over. The rich understand this. That's why they never stop learning. I remember when I was young and broke. I had no money, no direction. But someone gave me a book. That book changed my life. It opened my mind to ideas I had never considered. And from that moment on, I made a decision. I would invest in my education. Not school education, but self-education. I started reading books on finance, business, and success. I listened to people who were wealthy and learned how they thought. And little by little, my mindset changed. And when my mindset changed, my results changed. I once met a man who was struggling financially. He told me he wanted to be successful, but didn't know how. I asked him, how many books have you read on wealth building? He said none. How many seminars have you attended? None. How many successful people have you studied? None. And there was the problem. He wanted success, but he wasn't willing to invest in learning how to get it. See, most people want to be rich, but they don't want to change. They want a better life, but they don't want to grow. And that's why they stay stuck. Because wealth isn't about luck. It's about knowledge applied with action. And that brings me to the next point, action. Because knowledge alone isn't enough. You have to do something with what you learn. Too many people read books, take notes, and make plans, but they never act. They wait for the perfect moment. They hesitate. They overthink. But success doesn't wait for those who hesitate. I've met people who tell me, I'll start when I have more money. I'll start when the timing is right. I'll start when I feel ready. And guess what? They never start. Because there's never a perfect time. The perfect time is when you decide to start. I once knew a man who wanted to start a business. He had great ideas, but he kept waiting. He waited for the economy to improve. He waited to have more savings. He waited to feel more confident. And years went by, but nothing changed. Then one day, he realized something. If he kept waiting, life would pass him by. So he took action. And once he did, things started moving. His business grew, his income increased, and his life changed. That's the difference. The wealthy don't wait. They take action now. They don't have all the answers, but they start anyway. They don't know every step, but they take the first one. And as they move forward, things become clearer. I once heard someone say, the best way to learn is by doing. And it's true. You don't become successful by sitting on the sidelines. You don't become wealthy by waiting for the right conditions. You have to start. You have to take risks. You have to be willing to fail and learn along the way. And here's the thing. Action builds confidence. The more you do, the more you believe in yourself. The more you believe in yourself, the more action you take. It's a cycle. And that cycle leads to success. So here's what I want you to take from this. Stop making excuses. Invest in knowledge. Read the books. Learn the skills. Seek the mentors. And then take action. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Start now. Because the sooner you start, the sooner you'll see results. And once you do, you'll never look back. If you want to know where someone is headed financially, just look at their daily habits. Because success is not a mystery, and neither is failure. They both leave clues. And the biggest clue of all? The things you do every single day. Your financial results are not determined by luck or by circumstances. They are determined by the small choices you make over and over again. I once met a man who told me he couldn't get ahead financially. He said, "No matter what I do, I always end up broke." So I asked him, "Tell me about your daily routine." He woke up late, rushed out the door, spent money on things he didn't need, came home, watched hours of television, and repeated the same cycle the next day. And there was the problem. His financial situation was simply the result of his daily habits. See, the wealthy don't have a magic formula. They just have better habits. They read instead of wasting time. They plan their finances instead of hoping for the best. They invest in their growth instead of spending money on temporary pleasures. They work on their skills instead of making excuses. And because they do these things every day, their results improve every year. I remember when I first started learning about success, I realized something important. What I did every day mattered more than what I did once in a while. It wasn't the big dramatic changes that made the difference. It was the small, consistent actions. So I changed my habits. I started reading for an hour a day. I started setting financial goals and tracking my progress. I started associating with people who challenged me to grow. And over time, those little changes made a big difference. But most people never make those changes. They keep waiting for something to magically fix their situation. They keep wishing for wealth, but they never develop the habits that create it. And that's the biggest mistake of all. Thinking that success comes from wishing instead of doing. I once had a young man come up to me and say, "I want to be rich." I said, "Great. What are you doing to make that happen?" He said, "Well, I think about it all the time." And there was the problem. Thinking about success is not enough. Wishing for wealth won't bring it. Only action does. See, wealth comes to those who do, not those who wish. The world is full of people who dream about success, but never take the steps to achieve it. They talk about their goals, but never work on them. They hope for a better future, but never change their present. And because of that, their dreams stay dreams. But the wealthy are different. They don't just think about success. They act on it. They take risks. They make decisions. They step out of their comfort zone. And because they do, they create results. I knew a man who wanted to start a business. He had big ideas, big plans, big dreams. But year after year, he stayed stuck in the same job, making the same excuses. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I don't know if it will work. Meanwhile, someone else with fewer resources, less experience, and more challenges went ahead and started their business. And within a few years, that person was financially free. The difference? One person wished, the other person did. See, you don't have to know everything before you start. You don't have to have the perfect plan. You just have to begin. The wealthy don't wait for the perfect moment. They start where they are with what they have. And as they move forward, they learn, they adapt, and they grow. There are two types of people in life: those who take action and those who make excuses. And you have to decide which one you will be. Because every day that you hesitate, every day that you delay, every day that you stay stuck in old habits is a day that keeps you from the success you could have had. So ask yourself, what are you doing today to move toward wealth? What actions are you taking? What habits are you building? Because at the end of the day, your financial future is not determined by what you wish for. It is determined by what you do. Everyone wants a better life. Everyone wants more money, more freedom, more choices. But the truth is, most people aren't willing to do what it takes to get there. They want the rewards without the work, the wealth without the sacrifice. And that's why so many stay stuck. Because success is never free. It comes with a price. And that price is discipline, effort, and temporary sacrifice. I once met a young man who wanted to be financially independent. He told me, "I just don't have enough money to invest." So I asked him, "What do you spend your money on?" He admitted that every weekend he was out with friends, buying things he didn't need, spending money on entertainment, eating at restaurants, and upgrading to the latest gadgets. And right there was the problem. He had the money. He was just spending it in the wrong places. See, wealth isn't built by doing what's easy or convenient. It's built by making choices that most people aren't willing to make. It's skipping the unnecessary spending today so you can invest in your future. It's putting in extra effort now so you can enjoy financial freedom later. The rich understand this. They are willing to make sacrifices today so they can prosper tomorrow. I remember when I started out, I didn't have much. But I made a decision. I would put every extra dollar toward my future. I skipped the things I wanted in the moment so I could have the things I truly needed later. I didn't buy what I couldn't afford. I didn't waste time on distractions. I stayed focused. And over time, those small sacrifices turned into something great. But most people never do this. They tell themselves, "I'll start saving when I make more money. I'll start investing when I have extra." But they never do. Because every time they earn more, they spend more. Every time they have an opportunity to sacrifice, they choose comfort instead. And then they wonder why they never get ahead. The truth is, you can't have it both ways. You either make sacrifices now, or you struggle later. You either delay gratification, or you pay the price in the future. Because life will always demand a price. The question is, will you choose to pay it now while you have control, or will you be forced to pay it later when you have no choice? And that brings us to the next truth. You either have excuses or results, but not both. I once spoke with a man who told me, "I could be rich if only things were different." He blamed the economy. He blamed his upbringing. He blamed his job. He had an excuse for everything. And yet, I knew people who started with less than him and still became successful. The difference? They didn't waste time on excuses. They focused on getting results. Excuses are a way to stay comfortable. They make you feel better about not taking action. But they also keep you broke. The moment you start justifying why you can't do something, you give up control of your future. The moment you say, "It's not my fault," You hand over responsibility for your life. The rich think differently. Instead of saying, I can't, they ask, how can I? Instead of complaining about the economy, they look for opportunities. Instead of blaming their past, they focus on what they can do now. They don't allow excuses to stop them. They find solutions. I remember when I wanted to improve my finances, I had two choices. I could say I don't have the right connections. I don't have the resources. I don't have the experience. And if I had believed those excuses, I would have stayed exactly where I was. But instead I asked, what can I do with what I do have? And that's what made the difference. The world is full of people who are waiting for the perfect time, waiting for the right conditions, waiting for life to hand them an opportunity. And because they wait, they never take action. They let years pass by while they keep making the same excuses. And then one day, they wake up and realize nothing has changed. But the people who succeed don't wait. They start where they are. They use what they have. They find a way. They don't sit around wishing. They do. And that's why they get results. So ask yourself, are you choosing excuses or results? Are you making sacrifices today that will lead to success tomorrow? Or are you staying in the same place, hoping for something to change without taking action? Because at the end of the day, wealth doesn't come to those who make excuses. It comes to those who decide that no matter what it takes, they will find a way.